I was in between meetings. I had, like this long gap between meetings, and I had a backlog of podcasts I've been trying to find the time to listen to. Not because I've had absolutely no time. I think basically for three of the ones I had and I had kept, I was just looking for like the best time, opportunate time to listen to them, and I just hadn't found the time until today. So I had like a full 2.5 hours, yeah, where I was able to listen to what was left of I Said What I Said. Um, I said what I said with Jola and FK. And of course, after that, I listened to Nancy Sime on TVT, and well, I liked that episode. And I'm going to do a rundown. The third thing I listened to, which I was listening to right now, I'm almost done listening to it, but I needed to take a break and do this video. For whatever reason, I just feel very, very, strongly on my mind. First of all, I said what I said. The one I was listening to was the one for last week. I said I've not been able to listen to, so there's like a backlog of a few here and there. There was also Diary of a CEO, but I didn't listen to that today. I was taking notes a few days ago. So let me just say that the last what they call it, the last dilemma on I Said What I Said was a young woman, and she was calling out for help. She's in trouble. She lives with a brother, and if someone is a criminal, let's say a murderer, for example, and he has like exed you, like he had planned to kill you, and most of the time he would think about the options. He would think about his safety. He would think about how he will, what are the security measures perhaps you have in place. He would think about whether there's any other person in the house. He would think about how does she actually react. Maybe she's actually just pretending to be quiet. She could be, she could be violent. I don't know what she has in her room, and all of that. He would think about the security measures around the house and all of that. So that's for somebody who's outside. When you have a sibling who lives in your house, your parents know that he's violent. You know that he's violent. And then he's happy that he knows that he's violent, but then everybody knows that he's violent. So he has a familiar ground. He has access, to the person, the lady who was speaking. He has access to his sister. His parents know he's not well. He's not quite right in the head. He knows her temperament. He probably knows that she's not a violent person, or that she's not likely to do much about it. And then, among all of these things, the most instructive thing is that violence, misbehavior, extreme abuse, and listen to me, extreme abuse, extreme emotional, psychological, and physical abuse has been normalized in that household. You're talking about a textbook narcissistic family structure. The father, the mother, they don't want to upset anything. They don't want to be, maybe they are leaders, usually they are leaders in church. So they don't want a scandal. They don't want noise from the neighbors. The boy knows that his parents will not do much about it. And well, here's this girl saying her brother broke into her room, broke the door, jumped on her bed, jumped on her, pressed her neck. She said this. He pressed her neck and he was threatening her with a knife. I don't know who this person is. I don't know how to get across. And I wish Jola or FK or someone from the I Said What I Said family would see or hear this. You need to get in touch with that girl, and you need to find a way. She would say, well, it has happened before. He's always like that. And, the parents there are just, don't you know your brother? Just, and all of that. No. Every single story about family abuse, wife battery, sibling abuse. There was a history, right? It started a certain way and it escalated. This guy had just tested the water. Reach out to the girl and get her out of harm's way immediately. We need to reach out to the girl, get her out of harm's way immediately. That girl's life is in danger. The parents might not think so. It's their lovely son. When he does something, guess what? They're also surprised, but they're just like, it's our son. And I've seen that dynamic too close, for my own good. I've seen that dynamic, excusing everything that somebody does. Sometimes even, elevating the other person's docility, or, even beginning to wish that it's this other person who happens to be the victim that is the, is the target. Get that girl out of there. She will be killed. She will be injured in a way that, and it will be so sad that she cried for help and nobody came to help her. So that's that. I was listening to TVT, and of course, beautiful interview with Nancy Isime. But I jumped on the channel to talk specifically when Chude and the other guy, our guests on Ebuka and Banky's interview, and it was just so interesting because I watch Chude. I'm a Chude fan, yeah. And the way Chude almost jumped out of his skin, now you can tell that he's a born interviewer. You can tell he was so excited when Banky started opening up and talking about post-election depression, how he felt and all of that. And, it was so interesting because at this point, it was as if it was Chude who was interviewing Banky. And he was even and when you go to journalism school or you go to broadcasting school, they teach you to swallow those responses, okay, and some of us who are professionals, we had fought over the years. But then one thing that, still keeps it alive is the other person is listening to you, right? And in this particular situation, I was talking about a real life thing that happened to him. You could see he's still emotional about it. It was very painful. One of the things that, so I used to argue with my superiors at work and then my lecturers at school that, we should just try and minimize those sounds and, encouragements, mannerisms. We should try and minimize them. Don't cut them off, because what it does is that it encourages the person who you are interviewing. It encourages the person who you are interviewing, and it makes them to talk more. So, at a point, I could even see a bit of tears falling, some tears falling from Banky's eyes. And all the guys were very into it because, well, these are all successful guys and all of that. But then on that table, it was only Banky W who had, a physical, a real life situation of losing an election, right? Maybe, we had somebody who had won elections, maybe in school or, SUG government and all. But this particular time, right, is SUG. It's not SUG. He lost the governorship, and, nobody bothers to find out what happens. And when he was telling the story, I could see there's so much truth in it, because he had followers, he had volunteers, a lot of people following him, wanting him to be their next governor, only to find out, that he had lost the election. So he had to be strong for every other person. And then nobody knew what happened to him. Everybody would just say, well, he'll be fine. Should be one low. He had lost so much money. He had spent, let's not say he lost. He spent so much money. And there was no, a lot of things that would go on after you lose something you have sunk all your time, all your money, all your reputation, all your, everything into your mind into. He lost everything. One election. So please, you guys, take it easy on the politicians. I don't know who I'm talking to, and please, please, I'm not from APC. I don't have anything to do with APC. I'm saying let us please be human to those around us, and let us encourage people who we know have the capacity to run for, office. If you have the capacity, don't rule yourself out. Okay, there are possibilities of raising funds if you want to run for election, but that's a story for another day. I said all of that to say that men, specifically, men are going through a lot, and well, that's why we are creating, the opportunities in the NGOs, especially this platform, to cater to the men, because we've had some others do have voice. We've had some other things for the ladies, for the single mothers, and all of that. But then, men, everybody just assumes they'll be good, and then we're not nice when it comes to jumping on them. And it's really, really sensitive at this point, because there are real gender wars out there, and even when you have pity on them, you have to be very diplomatic, because you're going to be called a pick-me. So we decided, okay, we're going to do this to have lives. We're going to go on live on this channel, on YouTube and elsewhere. We're going to go live and then have people who can cater to the mental health of the men. And we want to have, as much as possible, only men in the room. We don't mind women being there, but we want mostly men in the room, and then a few of the counselors and perhaps myself, listening to the men and, asking them, what would you interpret as love? We're also catering to their fashion sense. Okay, we're talking about style for men, the issues that they have in their relationships, and also their health, physical and mental health. These three things, we're talking about fashion and style, mental and physical health, and we're also talking about how their relationships, what would you want to see, in your relationship, and why. And then we want to, deconstruct everything, because many times when we see good men doing the wrong things in their relationships, we realize that, look, it's not this guy. It was something that his father said. It was something his uncle said. You are a man. Don't do like this. So you are somehow treating a woman or your wife or your spouse or maybe your sister or maybe your girlfriend or maybe your boss your female boss at office, or in the office, or maybe your subordinate in the office. You're treating her in a way that in your own privacy, you're a great guy, you're a good guy, but if you think about it, if you remove all these stories, I call it generational voices in your head, something that somebody said and you knew when they said it didn't make sense, but you were just like, it's my mother that said it, it's the pastor that said it, and they said these things so long ago, but it had taken root in your mind and you are no longer thinking clearly. How would it hurt? How would it, how would you feel if you were treated like that? The way you are treating your girlfriend right now, would you like it if they are treating your daughter, your future daughter, like that? The way you are treating your wife, would you have stood by if they treated your mother like that? Begin to put yourself in someone else's shoes and blah, 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 and so on and so forth. So we're going to create those rooms. And, well, if you please subscribe so that you'll be getting information on where we're having these meetings. Some of them need to be very private. We're going to be going on Twitch and some of our quiet and Zoom. And, having these specific, quiet, small places. So please subscribe here, follow us, and you get the information. I have said all of that to say that if you're a woman, if you're a man, if you're a victim, if you are maybe the perpetrator, and if you think that you're a good person, begin to look at how the other person will feel. If you are a child, a mother, a sister, a brother, a boss, whoever you are in society, you owe it to the next person to treat them how you would want to be treated. There's this thing in our mindsets, okay, and it has become very prevalent that some people are more human than the others, that some staff are more staff than the other. Some children are more children than the other. Some adults are more adults than the other. No. How would you feel if you were treated like that? That's my question tonight. Well done to everyone. Tay, I loved your interview. You're doing a great job. I can't believe Tay is as young as he is, because he's, you know, a natural. I said it already. I loved today's reaction. He wasn't the one interviewing. Oh my gosh. Ebuka, amazing. The whole concept, honestly, if you leave me, I'll do 2 hours dissecting, reacting, and reviewing. Mentality is amazing. For whatever is worth, I don't know, you know, whatever you set out to do, you're doing, I must say, great job. Thank you, Banky, for your story. Thank you for being there. Thank you for being who you are. We love you on behalf of Adeswa and the rest of the women. We love the example that you're giving as a man of God, as a husband, as a citizen of Nigeria. And of course, to Jola and FK, you know how I feel about you. I must have said it here and there. But God bless you. You guys keep on doing the Lord's work. God bless you guys. Bye.